welcome in. This is another one of my videos on Dredge, and today we are going to do the Cheapskate challenge run attempt number 2. I did do this before. This is based off of the one I did before. I've never seen anybody do one like this. I haven't looked very hard though, so if you see somebody else doing something similar and it's different, that's why. This was just my way of doing a challenge run. And with this challenge, I just set out to answer one question, and that question is, how many purchases do you need to make to beat the game? We are using DLCs. We will talk about how that can change your run as well later on. These are the totals that I got last time. I did count the upgrades purchased in the total purchases, so there were 5 that were not upgrades. The rules are that we need to complete the game with as few in-game purchases as possible. Purchases are in-game transactions with in-game currency. The bad ending with all the relics must be completed. There are some things that don't count though. Paying back the boat and the fishing rod you start with, repairs for the boat, the crab pots, or other equipment do not count as purchases for this whole run. And that's partly because some of those other things, either we can't control them and they're just kind of a built-in purchase, so it's just adding to our counter already, or it's kind of luck-based. And I didn't want to rely on luck for my run. If you really want to do it where you're counting repairs and you're counting crab pot repairs and things like that, you totally can do what you want to do. It's your game. You play how you want to play. You may have also noticed that I have the relaxed fishing mode turned on. That's because I'm running off of an iPad and it doesn't like the controller button pushes. We caught all of the cod we needed and we went to go get our first free fishing rod, just like we did last time. So we took those 5 cod and we got the sinew spindle right out of the gate to get us started on this challenge run. This one does not count as a purchase, and it allows us to catch shallow fish in addition to the coastal fish we could catch before. We picked up the Gulf flounder and the gray eels that we were going to need for the fishing request that was going to be coming up here soon, and then we went back to go drop them off. And as soon as this request is done, we can just go get started right away on the next one with the squid and the grouper. So I waited until nighttime, went and grabbed the squid, and then went to go grab the grouper. There was a gust of wind right there that kind of scared me a little bit because I don't think we really ran into too many monsters last time. And we were already getting gusts of wind on day 3. So I decided I was gonna go take a little nap before we went back to drop off those fish. I also decided that I didn't really want to risk damaging my only engine, so after this I plan to go and pick up the free engine from Blackstone Isle. You only can access this one if you have the Blackstone Key DLC. In my first attempt at this challenge run, we went over how it is possible to do this challenge without a second engine. You can play the game still. If you damage the engine, you just move really, really slow. So if you want to see that, go back to the first video. We are gonna need money, so I spent some time fishing up a couple of boatloads of fish. We were gonna need an aberration to move on. I did catch one on day 5, and this activated the cutscene where we get the collector to appear the first time. At this point, it was late enough in the day that I wasn't gonna go make the trip over to Blackstone Isle to get the dredging equipment, so I decided I was going to rest. And by the time we wake up, we've actually moved on to some other story items as well. So we are greeted by the mayor, who tells us that basically we've paid off the boat. Again, this does not count as a purchase. It's one that we're forced into, and I'm not counting it. If you want to count it, you can. It'll just always add 1 to your total. We also got our first crab pot. This one is free. It also does not count as a purchase. The photographer also got a mention. You can go pick up the photography equipment if you want. I'm not going to bother with it, but it is free. We went over to talk to the collector and we got our dredging equipment. So now we can go do dredging stuff, which is great. While this was going on, I also had my crab pots sitting out waiting for me. So when we got back, we checked the crab pots, and the first one we got was a fiddler crab. Last time, I spent a few game days trying to catch this one, and this is the first crab we caught this time. This is one of the things I mean when I say that this is luck-based. you might have to repair your traps a lot just to catch one of the crabs. So we put that one in its spot, and then immediately after that we get our first book. I did get the book set to start reading, and I rested for the night. And then this is where we got even luckier because, again, last time to catch the crabs I needed for that request, it took me a couple of game days, but immediately after leaving the dock, we caught the other crab that we needed. So I picked up my trap because we weren't gonna need it in this area anymore, and headed back to go and complete that request from the fishmonger. After that, I went and dredged up our first relic, which is the key, and I took it back to the collector. We did have some weird glitches going on with the camera that you might have just noticed there. I did have some glitches on the first run, but not to the degree that I did here, and I'm wondering if that's because I added the DLCs. I think it just added more things for the game to try to render in, and so it was struggling with that a little bit. But again, that's just a guess. It is still playable, but definitely had some issues with the camera. On our way back from the collectors, we did fish up the aberration that the fishmonger wanted. So we just took that and went and dropped it off right away, and that completes like the main story for the first area of the game. We got awarded some research parts. Before I left, I went on over to Steel Point, and I went to go get materials for any upgrades that we might have to do, just because this is one of the easier places to get all of the materials, and there's a dock right there, so if it gets to be nighttime, I can run and take a nap. We did complete our book. We got wood, metal, and cloth. So hopefully we should be covered when it comes to any of the upgrades. I went back on over and I put the wood and cloth in its slot for the upgrade for the trawl nets. I did not make a purchase here. I just got everything ready to go for a potential purchase in the future, and I shoved all of the other materials into storage just so we had them later. And I decided I was going to take those research parts and just get started on the research we were going to need to do. I got the first fishing rod researched so we could unlock more branches in the research tree, and then I started working on the research for the anti-tangle line. Now that we were done with the Morrows, we could head on to the Gale Cliffs. This was a long drive because, again, we only have just the 2 engines, and I ran into the Leviathan. If you want to watch that back again really, really slow, the Leviathan doesn't actually hit the boat. So I don't know how I wound up taking damage there. This is partly what I mean when I say that there's luck involved. We didn't see the Leviathan at all in the first challenge attempt. And I've never seen the Leviathan in this area before either. And I've played the game through a few times now. I also decided that this time we were going to talk to the traveling merchant and get the request for the special fish that she wants us to find. In this game, if you get those, you get research parts. The one in Stellar Basin you can get while you're in Stellar Basin. So there was no reason for us to not do that. And as you may have noticed, I did make an unnecessary purchase of a research part last time. I was determined not to do that again. We repaired our boat, we dropped off our crab pot, and then we headed on over to talk to the hermit. Now that we have the quest to go and get the family crest from the back of the island, we're gonna just go back there. So I headed off to the campsite. I went and got the research part that you can find at the campsite and decided that I was going to finish off the research for the anti-tangle line. And while I was here, the thought occurred to me that touch controls might not have the same problems with the camera that using a controller was having. So I decided I was going to switch over to touch controls. before we went to go into the den of the monster. And I was struggling. I don't know why I had such a hard time with the touch controls this time around. I've used them a little bit before, but for some reason this time around, it was like trying to balance on a beach ball. But I was already too far into the little area and I wasn't gonna just leave. So I went in there and got myself attacked by the serpent while I was trying to figure out grabbing the crest. Yeah. We took 2 hits of damage like we did last time. I think that's just kind of the base damage if you run into this monster is 2. We got the crest and we got out of there. I will say that the camera issues were not a problem in the touch controls. So my idea worked in theory. In practice, I could not move the boat around very well. And I decided that I would much rather take the weird camera control issues over the boat issues. Some of the later areas of the game are mazes, and, you know, crashing into things gives you damage, so it's hard to navigate them anyways. I didn't feel very confident that I was gonna figure this out by then. I do stick with the touch controls for just a little while longer before I give up, but yeah, we docked, rested, and then we made our way back over to the hermit. I did learn my lesson this time as well, so I took my time talking with the hermit and just waiting. Last time we had the serpent slowly move past us, and I tried resting my way through it and just wasted a couple of days. The serpent doesn't care if time is moving faster for your fisherman. It is still moving at this same speed. So I just waited for it to pass before I tried to do anything else, and yeah, there it goes. Back into the cliffs. We went to go talk with the hermit's brother, dropped off the family crest, and this gives us the next part of the quest line, which is to go and take care of the rocks marked with the yellow flags. Before I did that, I wanted to go and check on our crab pots, so that's what I went to go do, and we actually had all of the crabs again. First time that we were gonna need for the mouth of the deep. Since they won't rot in the trap, I left them there and went to go get the repairs that I was gonna need. I was not gonna risk sinking, especially if we could avoid it super easily. So I went and did that and grabbed the crabs, went and dropped them off at the rock slab and got the mouth of the deep. This is a really useful crab pot later on, especially with the route we're going to take here in just a moment. We went back to the pontoon boat, dropped that off into storage, and then that left us with going to clear the debris in the cliffs. So we went to go do that. It's back in the den of the monster, so of course it's going to attack us. As you saw, we did take damage, so that means that we're gonna have to go and repair the boat. We went back to the pontoon, we got the repairs, and then we headed off to go talk to the hermit's brother again. This allows us to go grab the hermit and bring him back on over, and completes the storyline for the area. this is the only one of these that we get for free, and we do need it to go and get the music box. So unfortunately, we won't be using any more of those. They would have been really useful later on, but yeah, we're trying not to make purchases. We go to get the music box, and then that's it. That's the relic for this area, and we're done with Gale Cliffs. There's not a lot of fishing involved in this area. Mostly, we just want the crab pot. So, speaking of crab pots, we went and picked up the other one, and we rested before setting back out to go all the way back to the collector. This is the point where things changed a lot from our previous challenge run attempt. We have the Pale Reach DLC this time. You can do this entire challenge without using any DLCs. I just wanted to see if my idea was even possible on shaving off another purchase. So instead of going to Stellar Basin like the collector hints that we should, we head off to go to the Pale Reach. I got jump scared by a whale, and I stopped at one of the campsites on the way over there because this is a really long boat ride, especially when you're only running off of just the 2 engines that you have. If you only have one because you don't have the Blackstone Key DLC, be prepared for this to be a really, really, really long boat ride. I was hoping we were going to find another research part at this campsite, but when we went and looked, the thing that we got was actually a ring. I could have gone to sell this for some extra money, but it just wasn't really worth it. So now we have that just hanging out in our storage. I also want to mention that on the way I did some fishing, and there's a reason that I did this. Once we get there, unless we want to make another purchase for an ice rod, there's not really any fish that we can catch. We can use the crab pots though. This is where the mouth of the deep is really going to come in handy in this run. The smaller crab pot isn't going to be able to hold enough crabs or catch enough fast enough to actually do what we need to do very well. There's going to be a lot of back and forth if you want to try it with just the one crab pot. Just be prepared for that. We did also pick up the quest to go and get the icebreaker. This is another free thing that we get. You're going to need it to complete this area. So yeah, we're gonna have to go find those pieces. We placed the crab pots, and then we headed off into the ice field. And at this point, we run into the photographer. You cannot get the camera from her at this point, or the quest to go get the camera. Just to point that out, the only thing that she's here for is to show you how to break through this wall of ice. This is where the fish that we caught before are gonna come in handy. We're gonna need more than what I caught, unfortunately. So I could have gone back out and caught more fish in like the Stellar Basin area, but that was gonna take a lot more time and be a lot more risky than just resting through several days waiting for crabs to appear in the crab pots. That was the method that I used in this area, was just resting multiple days and waiting for crabs to appear. It didn't take very long before we got enough fish to go and complete the rest of the little puzzle thing here. We broke through, and the photographer was like, I'm out. We're not out. We're going in, and we're gonna go get the first part that we need for the icebreaker. This is luckily not too far away, and then there's a dock that we can go and rest at. At the dock, we ran into the captain, and we went and picked up a map from the little base that's there. We took the icebreaker piece back, put it in place, and then headed back out to go and try to catch more crabs. Once we had the crabs, I went back into the little area where the narwhal appears. This is a little bit more difficult when you don't move very fast. The closest I've ever been to getting attacked by the narwhal was during this run. I was a bit more cautious and I kept stopping to rest at the base before I went to go and work on the puzzles. This cut things a little bit close with the crabs and the starfish getting really close to rotting away at multiple points. Just something to be aware of. You're gonna want to go through this as quick as you can with the crabs, but you still need to be a little bit careful with the narwhal lurking around. This does distract the narwhal for a while after you complete one of the puzzles, which is really lucky for us. I went and got piece number 2 of the icebreaker. It's 2 out of 3. And then we met the boatswain. We dropped off that piece of the icebreaker and then had to wait around to get some more crabs. I sold the extra ones for money because, again, we're going to need money. This is why the Mouth of the Deep is great. Those are all of the crabs that we're going to need for one of the puzzles. That's not going to happen in the smaller crab pot. Again, I did the little thing where I would rush in, rest at the base, and then go do a puzzle. This one got us to icebreaker piece number 3. So that's going to be all of the pieces that we need for the icebreaker. And that should allow us to finally get some shortcuts through here, which hopefully means that our crabs aren't going to rot before we get to where we need to. This also got us into the area where we could meet the navigator. Things got dicey when I tried to get out of this area this time. I've never been chased as far by the narwhal before, but I could hear it following me through this entire icy little passageway. We actually got the Cool Heat achievement at this point. I've gotten it before on both the PlayStation 4 and the PC, but I haven't got all of the achievements yet for the iPad. We completed and installed the icebreaker, and then we headed on over to the floating dock to get ready to pick up the trawl net. So we made purchase number 1, which is also an upgrade. So I am keeping track of those separately. They are counted in our total amount, but I just want to see how few of those I can get. The icebreaker means that we can take a shortcut through here, and this is so much nicer. I dropped off some crabs to distract the narwhal at the little station behind the base, and then I set off to go to the last area. I didn't drop off all of my crabs because I thought I might need them on the way back. I got the first of the ice axes and then met the first officer. The first officer is where I decided we were going to use this first ice axe, and this gets us the first little stone that we need for the trawl net. The trawl net's the whole reason that we came to this area, so yeah, this is really important. On my way out of there, I ran into the narwhal again, and this is the closest the narwhal has gotten ever to attacking me. So I was panicking a little bit. I didn't think I was gonna make it over to the little station to drop off more of the crabs. Luckily, when I got here, they hadn't rotted, so I threw them on the pile and got out of there as fast as I could. There is an ice axe in the starting area where the narwhal is. You just need the icebreaker to be able to get to it. So I went and grabbed that one and then headed back on over to the base where the captain is, and we got our second of the little gemstone things that we need for the trawl net. After getting that one, I went to go get the ice axe that was over by the navigator. We freed the navigator, and then that left us with just one more stone that we need to get the trawl net from this area. When I was leaving, I decided that instead of going back through the area where the narwhal is, I was gonna go around the outside edge of the map. And yeah, that took quite a while, but I think that was the safer route through there instead of trying to make it around the narwhal again, especially since I didn't have anything else to distract it with. This also put me in a really good position to go and grab the ice shaper on the way past. This isn't something that's going to be really necessary, but we do get a couple of free ice blocks out of it, so I grabbed it before heading back off to the pontoon. I was hoping that these ice blocks were going to keep the crabs fresh long enough that we could drop a couple off to distract the narwhal on our way to get the last piece, and then save a couple of them for us to get back. I went back to the central camp and rested there before going back to the little narwhal distraction point and dropping off a few of the crabs there. I saved a few of them because, again, my plan was to use a few of these on our way back out. I grabbed the final ice axe and then I went to go and free the boatswain, which meant that that was the last of the pieces that we needed to go and get the trawl net. This also completes the storyline for the Pale Reach and gives us another free item. I'd honestly forgot about this item, but it's gonna be great, and it's gonna help us a lot in the rest of this challenge, so I do want to go get that. Unfortunately, by this point, my plan with the crabs didn't work out super well. The rest of the starfish that I'd saved had rotted away after I'd rested, and that meant that I was gonna just have to take the long way. I managed to get over to the little area where we could drop the stones off. I forgot that we couldn't access our storage when we were at the little camps around the map. So I had to go back to the pontoon boat to get the rest of the rocks out of storage to complete the rest of the quest to get the trawl net. I picked up some more crabs while I was there, and I got all of the stones out of storage before heading off to work on getting the last of the items in this area. I did make a mistake and I rested before going and trying to drop off the crabs. I managed to damage the hole when I was attempting to drop these off. They'd rotted. So unfortunately, we didn't have a distraction for the narwhal. I pressed through and still managed to go and get the RS anchor before we went to go and drop off the stones to get the trawl net. Since we didn't have a distraction for the narwhal, I decided I was going to take the long way around and rest at another camp before going to get to the rock slab again. So we took the frozen hearts. I've been calling them stones throughout this, I'm sorry. They look more like a gemstone than they do a frozen heart to me, and so anyway, okay. We took them back on over to the rock slab. We put them on the rock slab, and this was going to finally unlock the trawl net that we came here for. I was actually really surprised with this run because I thought that Pale Reach was going to add a lot of time to the run, and it didn't. I actually completed this in about 3 hours and 45 minutes, which is very similar to the time I completed the other run in. I'm really curious now at how fast I could actually complete Dredge if I wasn't trying to limit how many upgrades I could have. And then, of course, since we took some damage, before we go anywhere else, we're gonna have to repair the boat. The next stop is Stellar Basin, and on our way to Stellar Basin, we ran into the Leviathan again. I was kind of lucky that I'd been using haste to boost myself along a little bit quicker, and so it was already ready to go. But yeah, I've never run into the Leviathan here before either, and this definitely made me feel unsafe, so good job, game, for causing unease and tension. That's the point. I mean, I know it's a horror game,
definitely did that this time. Right away I dropped off the crab pot so we could start working on making some money, so then we can pay for some upgrades, because we are going to need to get an upgrade in this area, and I already know it's coming. I also dropped off the RS anchor, so then if I have to teleport away, we have a fast travel back. The fast travel thing is going to be really nice if we do have to teleport away from things. So there's going to be another benefit to Pale Reach if you do have it. If you don't, I did it without Pale Reach last time. You can do it without Pale Reach. You're just going to have to buy the trawl net because the Aurora Jellyfish requires a trawl net. We have it, so we can just get started on this quest from the researcher right away. And that's what I did. I got the trawl net equipped, ready to go, and started trawling. Another benefit of the crab pots is that they can give you research parts. We took this research part and we started working on the research for the heat-resistant line. I quickly caught the Aurora Jellyfish. This was something that took me a while last time, and then I went to go get the other two things we needed for the researcher. This happened very, very quickly. We were really lucky with this one this time. I got all of them in the span of 30 seconds, which was not the case last time. This is why I'm not counting repairs on the trawl nets or the other equipment. You can get really, really lucky and not have to do any repairs, or it can take you quite a while and you're gonna have to replay this multiple times to get lucky enough to not have to do the repairs. We went and dropped these off at the researcher so we could get started on the next part of the quest. We got another research part from a crab pot, and then we went on over to the research outpost to go and get the equipment that the researcher requested. Here we found some more research parts. We also have the chance, once we get the upgraded rod that we need, to catch the gulper eel while we're here and get even more research parts. So it shouldn't be too bad to get all of the ones that we need. We grabbed the prototype parts and we headed back on over to the researcher. This is where things are going to change significantly from our previous playthrough. So this time around, I am not going to try to get the other free fishing rod. We did get this one from the researcher. We kind of need that one if we want to unlock the other ones. But I'm not going to go try to get the one that you get from doing the stone slab in the area. Last time I discovered that we needed this free fishing rod from the researcher no matter what we did. So once we get this one, there is a chance for us to unlock the bottomless lines and then the fathomless winch. This time around, we're going to go for the fathomless winch. So I started doing the research for that. If you want to watch my last video, you can hear my reasoning on why I made the choices I did there. But this time around, my reasoning was the fathomless winch can catch all of the fish that we need, including oceanic fish, and still fit in the spaces that we have already available. So we don't need to do another boat upgrade like we did last time. That should shave off a boat upgrade, and that should also shave off at least one purchase. Going back over to the research outpost and dropping off the repulsion machine gives us another research part. This research part allowed me to unlock the fathomless winch. With the fathomless winch, we now can get all of the rest of the fish we need to finish off the Stellar Basin storyline, and also get the ring for the collector. While I did need an anglerfish for the researcher, I decided that this first one I was gonna sell. I got really, really lucky and I got a trophy one, and those sell for a little bit more. The fathomless winch is a fairly expensive purchase that we're gonna have to make, and this is not the last purchase, unfortunately. So yeah, I knew we were gonna need the money. Fortunately for me, I already did have enough money, and we could make purchase number 2 and buy the fathomless winch. After making this purchase, I went about trying to pick up all of my crab pots and get ready to move on to the next area. While I was doing this, I did wind up unlocking another free book. I started reading the book so we could get the boost from it. And yeah, like I said, I went and picked everything up, including the anchor, because at this point, all that's left to do is fish up the remaining fish, grab the ring, and get out of here. The boat being small means that this isn't going to necessarily just be a one-trip kind of deal, so I went and grabbed all of the ones out of the middle since I had already turned on the repulsion machine, and I grabbed the ring. Then I headed off over to the researcher, and on the way I just grabbed the loose jaw because it's just right there. While I was here, I shoved the ring and the anchor into storage. I do plan on going back to get the gulper eel, and it's a pretty big fish. We have a really tiny boat, so yeah. The only specimen left is the anglerfish, so we need to go get that one too. I grabbed the anglerfish, and then I went to go grab the gulper eel. If you don't have enough research parts, you can also go back to Gale Cliffs area, and you can grab the oarfish after you get done with Stellar Basin. There's also the option to go to Twisted Strand and grab the dog tags for the airmen to get more research parts. The gulper eel just happens to be a really easy one to get, and it also gives us quite a bit of money. Unfortunately, out of all of the fish that the traveling merchant asks for, the oarfish and the gulper eel are the only two that we can get without paying for an item. The oarfish is quite a bit out of the way at this point, and unless you really need the research parts, it's not really worth it. We don't need the research parts. In fact, we used the research parts we had to finish the research for the heat-resistant line, so we're not going to bother with it. We returned to the researcher with an anglerfish, and we got another free book. This completes the Stellar Basin, and now we're all ready to go back to the collector with the ring and move on to Twisted Strand. Honestly, Manifest is so great. Like, I didn't realize it because I didn't use it as much, but when your engines are not very fast, Manifest is great. So we got back, we dropped off the ring, and this unlocks Banish. Banish is going to be an important part of Devil's Spine, especially based off of how my previous attempt at this went. We don't move very fast, and that leaves us really vulnerable to the monsters that are in the area. Banish gives us a way to not quite fight back against the monsters, but to scare them off a little bit, and this kind of helped put me at ease a little more. I was on edge because we'd run into the Leviathan twice. I was still on edge, and I got jump scared by the multiple wildlife appearances that happened on my way over to Twisted Strand. Fortunately, none of the encounters happened to be the Leviathan, and I made it back to the little pontoon without too many problems. After making it over here, I got to work preparing for the fishing that we're gonna have to do in this area. I got the RS anchor out of storage as well. This is gonna help make things so much smoother, and I'm so glad that we actually spent the time to go and get it. Sorry for those of you that don't have Pale Reach. This is going to be a little bit more challenging. If you're looking for a challenge, though, definitely not using it makes it more difficult. Then I set about getting ready to catch mangrove fish. We're going to need some mangrove fish for some of the bait buckets. So we do have to make a purchase here, and I made purchase number 3, which is the anti-tangle line. I dropped the RS anchor off by the airmen so then we can fast travel back to this location. This is honestly what probably shaved time off of my run and kept it at about the same time as my previous run, even though we had to go all the way through Pale Reach. This also is where we got another research part. Again, if you need more research parts, you can go find the dog tags and bring them back to the airmen. I started working on getting the pieces of the mortar before I did any of the fishing. The first one I got without any issues, and I decided I was gonna go try to get the second one while I was out, and I realized that the pathways I would normally take to do this are unfortunately blocked off by barriers that you can pay to get an item to break through, but we're not gonna do that because we're trying not to pay for things. So we have to go the long way around everything. And yeah, I decided that I was ultimately just gonna go back to the airmen and try this again later. This marks the first time we are going to do the little teleporter dance. We are going to do this a lot. We manifest back to Blackstone Isle, and then we take the portal back to where we dropped off the RS anchor, which is right in front of the airmen. Again, this shaved off so much time. We don't have to work our way back through the maze to get back to the airmen. I went and got the second part, and this put me in a position where I knew where to find the catfish. The catfish are one of the fish we need for one of the bait buckets, and they only appear at night. Nighttime puts us at a greater chance of sinking, and I didn't want to do that. While we were waiting for the catfish, we did finish reading our book. As you can see, that fallen log there is actually where I would normally just break through and then come and grab the catfish. We're right next to where the airman is. I grabbed the catfish, so then I didn't have to come back here again because, yeah, we're right here. Why not just do it now? I grabbed an extra one too while I was here. We dropped off the final piece of the mortar to the airmen, and then got working on the bait buckets by dropping off our catfish to the correct bucket. There are going to be some more fish that we need to catch before we can finalize any of these, but it's a good start. I sold the extra catfish, and then I got working on fishing up the other ones we would need for the bait buckets. Throughout this whole thing, I've been still struggling with the camera controls, and my awkward spin in a circle to pass time trick didn't work as well as it normally does, partly because of this. While I was managing the camera, I would have to be pushing down on the joystick so the camera wasn't trying to move around constantly, and I don't know, there was just so much going on that it was difficult. You can see this trick in the previous video that I did as well. I used this while I was waiting for the catfish. It might look silly, but there's actually a reason why I'm doing this. In Dredge, time does not pass unless you are moving, sleeping, fishing, or dredging. And we needed time to pass so I could catch the eels. Technically, at this point, there's still one fish that I need to finish off the bait buckets. I still can finish 2 of them, so that's what I did. I finished the 2 that we could, and then I grabbed them and set off to go work on getting the mine suckers. I did realize that we might not have been able to fit all 3 of the mine suckers in our boat at the same time. So this might have worked out okay. While I was over by the first one, we were close enough to get the last fish that we needed for the remaining bait bucket. Without returning to the airmen, I went and got the second one loaded in the trap, and yeah, so that's 2 out of 3 of the mine suckers. This went by really, really fast. Twisted Strand didn't take me very long, and I was kind of surprised how quickly I went through it. Again, I do think that the fast traveling helped with this. Instead of going back to the airmen by driving there, I was gonna just use our little manifest trick because it's so much faster, it really is. Truthfully, the RS anchor is probably the best item in all of Dredge. It makes me kind of wish that I would have used it in my previous run. But if you are looking for a way to make your challenge more challenging, don't get it, don't use it. It's definitely harder without it. We dropped off the 2 mine suckers that we already had, and we dropped off the last fish to get the last bait bucket to get the last mine sucker. That was a lot of lasts. But this is the very end of Twisted Strand. We just have to go get that last mine sucker, and that's it. That was the last one, so it's just a matter of getting back to the airman. This little teleporting trick makes this go by so fast. It was really, really nice. Honestly, Twisted Strand used to be one of the areas that I hated the most. With this little teleporting trick, I like it the best. That gave us the necklace. All I have to do now is Devil's Spine, which was the worst area last time. We sank in Devil's Spine. This is also the point where we are given atrophy. I didn't ever wind up using atrophy, although if you are having a difficult time finding the aberrations that you need in Devil's Spine, this might be a little bit more worth it. I didn't wind up using it for either run, but yeah, just an idea. I did rest at Steel Point just because this is such a long drive and I didn't want to be traveling in the dark if I could avoid it. I stopped to talk to the Fanatic, which activates our quest for the area, and then I went on to the pontoon boat. I placed the RS anchor near the pontoon boat so then we could fast travel back to a place where I could get repairs if I needed to. This is the area where I'm pretty sure I take the most damage every single time I play. I already knew we were going to need a rod that could catch volcanic fish, so I tried to buy the heat-resistant line, but I didn't have enough money. So instead, I decided I was going to just drop off my crab pots and do some fishing. Luckily, it didn't take me very long before I had enough money, and then we could go back to the pontoon boat and get the heat-resistant line in what would make purchase number 4. This time around, I had a really hard time with accidentally alerting the monsters to my presence a lot. Luckily, this time, teleporting away doesn't mean that we have to make a very long drive back. We can just do our little teleporter dance and be back there pretty quick. It didn't take very long to get one of the crabs we were going to need for one of the shrines. I left it there so it wouldn't rot, and I went to go get the pale skate for a different shrine. This shrine gave me some fits last time due to how much driving I had to do to get there. This time I ran into some different problems. I tried to be patient and just wait for the mother to pass before I sprinted for the next volcanic vent. This didn't work out super well. With the little fish slowing me down, I tried to boost with haste, and I damaged my engine. I still had a really close call right there, even despite trying to be careful. I decided that I was going to just teleport out of here and repair the engine, because moving super slow wasn't gonna be great either. I rested to clear the panic, and it was still dark out. I got a little bit too close, and I had the monsters following me again. So I used Banish to try to keep them away from me. The monsters seemed to be more touchy this time, and the mother seemed to be a lot faster than I remember her being. I had another close call right as I was getting close to the shrine, and I was just hoping that the skate didn't rot before I got there. I did find this other little pathway this time, and I liked that one a lot more than I liked the other route I attempted to take to get to this shrine. So this is how I'm gonna be trying to get in here for dropping off the other fish as well. Honestly, this is where I'm glad they have the mechanic they do with the time not moving unless you're moving. We can just wait for her to pass before we make a sprint for the shrine, and we're not losing time and the fish aren't rotting. Luckily, by the time I got to the shrine, we still had the skate and we could drop it off. I teleported away because, let's be real, this is way easier and way faster. I grabbed the lobster when I got back and went to go put it in the shrine. I knew I didn't have the other crab that I needed yet, but I figured this freed up more space in the traps, and this shrine is so close to the pontoon boat that I figured it doesn't really matter. Like, it's not a long drive away. It doesn't take me very long if I do get the other crab to just put it in and get the shrine completed. So yeah, that's what I did. I went and switched out my fishing rod so I could go and catch the ghost shark that I was gonna need to finish off the shrine with the skate. On my way to get the ghost shark, I got jump scared by wildlife again. I'm really on edge after the Leviathan encounters. I got the ghost shark without any issues, and this puts us really close to that little path that I took the last time that we went through this area with the skate to put this in the shrine. So that's the path I took again. Luckily, it's not very far, and again, this one's way easier than the one I took in the previous attempt at this run. So yeah, this went fairly smoothly. I didn't have any issues getting back over there and dropping this one off to complete the shrine. This was going to be the first shrine out of 3 that we completed. I just needed the other crab and 2 aberrations to complete the other 2 shrines. And I was gonna do my little teleporter dance to get out of here again because, again, this is just so much faster and so much easier. The crab pots have been super lucky this entire run. It wasn't long until I got the spider crab that I needed and both of the aberrations out of the crab traps. I left the aberrations alone and I took the crab to go drop it off at the shrine. Before I did dock just so it saved my progress. And yeah, that's gonna be shrine number 2. I also got a research part, so if you are needing research parts, the crab traps can definitely help you out a little bit. And that is shrine number 2 completed. I just put the flames in storage for now. I wasn't gonna go travel back and forth to try to drop them off. I had plenty of time still left in the day where I was gonna have light, so I decided I was gonna try to go and get the 3rd shrine. I went back to the crab pots and I grabbed all of the crabs out of it. There was one that was not one that I needed, so that one I was gonna just sell, and I was going to dock when I did that again just to save my progress in case I sank. This is where things got interesting. This is the shrine that I had the most problems with this time around by a lot. I went to go find one of the bubble vents so I could wait for the mother to pass, and I attracted one of the smaller fish. So I already used my banish. I was not super thrilled about that, but I figured as long as I could get to the vent, I could wait.
wait for her to swim by, and then try to make it to the next vent. That was the whole plan anyway. The waiting part took quite a while, so I did cut that out. It was several minutes of me just sitting there. And then she did swim past, and I waited for a while just to make sure that she was far enough away that if she did get summoned, I had enough of a chance to maybe get out of there. I grabbed haste, and I made a run for the next volcanic vent. Unfortunately, I got spotted very quickly by one of the little fish. I got to the vent and was super relieved. That was super close. It was too close for comfort. But for some reason, the fish that follow her didn't obey the rules of the vent, or they're not supposed to stay attached to me. I think this was a glitch. I don't know what happened. I've never had that happen before. So I panic manifested away, and I was gonna have to try it again. I was very, very upset and confused at this point. I was like, okay, so maybe that was a school of fish, and it wasn't actually a volcanic vent. Maybe I was confused. No, I went back and watched the footage again. It is indeed one of the vents. I really genuinely think this just had to be a bug. When I got back, I rested to clear my panic, and I set out before it got light out. That was a bit of a mistake. I got chased down by the little fish again and had to use Banish very quickly. It was so dark that I got myself a little bit lost on my way over to the shrine. Since I was in panic mode again very quickly, I thought the little glowing things there were the shrine in the dark. They were not, and I got attacked by more of the little fish in here. Unfortunately for me, the mother was nearby. I could not escape. I lost the Sable Reacher overboard, and I thought this was gonna be a little bit like the Serpent and Gale Cliffs, where I was gonna have time to get away because she just left for a second. I was kind of right. She did leave for a second, and then she came right back, and before I could manifest away, I sank. Without that little bug happening, I knew this probably, I probably already would have been done with the run. So I was kind of frustrated. I went back to the pontoon because I reloaded, and that's where you reload to. Rested for a little longer so it would be light out by the time I got over near the shrine, and I set back out again. I was really, really struggling to not attract the little fish over to the boat. And this time was no different than the previous times. The little fish came over to the boat again, and I used Banish again to get rid of them. So then I wasn't gonna have that when I did get up closer to the shrine, where I was most likely going to need it, unfortunately. So that was frustrating. I double checked with my map to make sure I was actually going the right way this time and not going into the ruins too soon. The mother was swimming past, and I was nowhere near a vent. Unfortunately, Banish ran out. I got attacked by the little fish, and then I got attacked by the mother. I lost one of my aberrations that I needed overboard, but I was gonna just keep pressing through. I was pretty sure I was gonna sink again, because again, more little fish attached to the boat, the mother's nearby. Somehow, I made it to a vent and made it to the shrine with one of my aberrations. I have no idea how I managed it, but I was gonna need another aberration to complete the shrine, unfortunately. So I was gonna have to make my way back over here again after all of this. I did a little teleport away, and yeah, I was gonna have to go find that aberration, and was not looking forward to doing that. Fortunately for me, when I got back, there was an aberration just already in a crab pot. I have no idea how I got so lucky with the crab pots this time, but I did. I shouldn't have picked it up before I rested, but I did that too. And I was just so done with this run that I rested and just left. I forgot to do repairs
at the pontoon boat before I took off. And as you saw, we were one hit away from sinking. So if I ran into something, I was gonna sink the boat. It took me a moment to realize this. I did realize, and I decided that I was gonna go back and I was gonna get the repairs and not risk having to do this again, to the extent that I could minimize risks. At the rate I was going, I knew there was a good chance that I was gonna get attacked again and potentially lose my aberration again. Somehow, I had a very uneventful time getting back over towards the shrine. I did have one little fish try to follow me. I used Banish, and we were already so close that it was gonna be pretty easy to get in by the time Banish wore off. Like, we were right at an event, so if I got attacked, it was gonna be fine. I finally made it to the shrine, and I finally completed the final shrine. All there was left to do was to take all of these back over to the Fanatic, put them where they needed to go, grab the last relic, and then go back to Blackstone Isle and start the final cutscene of the game. So I teleported back on over to the pontoon boat, pulled all of the pieces that I was going to need out of storage, and then I headed off to go meet the Fanatic. A short set of dialogue choices later, and I had the final relic. I teleported away back to Blackstone Isle and went to go talk to the Collector to start the ending of the game. This time went so much better. This was a very successful run. If you were keeping count, our end total was 4. That does count our upgrade that we had to do. If you do not have the Pale Reach DLC, you will need to do 5 purchases to complete the game. It does make things a little bit more tricky and challenging, but overall, I would say that this has been a success. It was a lot of fun despite the bugs, and now I'm wondering how fast I can actually beat the game, because even with the DLC, it only took me about 3 hours and 45 minutes to do the entire run.